They wandered, alone. Curious, new, perhaps a bit afraid, but what of? The landscape stretched on for as long as they could see. They felt they could see something up ahead, but maybe not, I'm not sure.
There exists a theory that our brains have two opposing systems, the attachment system and the exploration system. The attachment system seems to be responsible for our deep inner desire to form a connection to a significant other, whether it be platonic or romantic. The central theme of attachment theory is that the primary caregivers who are available and responsive to an infant's needs allow the child to develop a sense of security. The infant knows that the caregiver is dependable, which creates a secure base for the child to then explore the world. Explore. That's right, the exploration system, responsible for
Lights, movement, sounds, feelings, emotions, connections, flow, energy, fulfillment, longing, desperation, hope, fear, love, poetry, and driving in the car, late nights with yourself and someone you care for deeply, heartfelt, stupid mistakes, learning and regretting and dying. I'm not sure what that was. Hey, this won't work, at least I don't think. It's too cold. Not cold, that wasn't the right word. Empty. Barren. This is...
the yin-yang symbol. Perhaps you've seen it before. It has three different broad meanings. Yin-yang as the coherent fabric of reality. Yin-yang as the, quote, interaction of the waxing and waning of the growing and decaying nature of the universe, whatever that means. And yin-yang as the principle of all things existing in opposite harmony. And that last one is probably the one that sounds the most familiar when we think of the symbol. The Zhuangzi, an ancient Chinese text whose name I'm completely butchering once more, claims yin in its highest form to be freezing, and yang in its highest form to be boiling. Yin being heaven, yang being the earth, etc. According to this book, the very fact that they are such contrasting opposites to begin with is what allows things to be created anywhere. And that's true, actually. The way anything forms in this universe is through difference in energy. Entropy, the amount of thermal energy in any given object, or entropy, a measurement of disorder. Energy is constantly dispersing throughout the universe, aiming to get to its final state of zero entropy. Eventually, some really smart people think the universe could be done dispersing and reach zero entropy. When this happens, everywhere will be the same temperature. There will be no light, no movement, no anything, leaving nothing but a memory of a dead realm and the feeling of wanting more. We feed off an immense desire to see what we haven't seen before and learn new information, but it can be a bit difficult to initiate that exploration if you don't know it's safe. Psychologically, it might be impossible. As babies, we're terrified to near death of almost everything, confused by our own stinky heinies and sobbing pretty much 24 hours a day. And that might be because we haven't fully solidified that attachment to our parent guardian figure yet. So yeah, I imagine whenever we're starting to realize how incapable we are of taking care of ourselves and how untrustworthy our potential parent could be, it makes sense that babies are so anxious all the time. Lee A. Kirkpatrick spent many years researching attachment theory and the many sides it could possibly have to it. It was fairly easy to study in children, and neat little lines were able to be drawn between ages and level of attachment, with around 9 months seeming to be a pretty strong candidate for when we start to develop these attachments. But these findings prompted some more interesting questions about us and how our brains work, like, could our preference for believing in a godlike figure be a form of this attachment theory? Does our desire to have a figure to attach to ever go away, or do we just start to rationalize it in different ways? Is this where the idea of a god came from? Maybe these ideas are getting a little bit too
hot and cold, light and dark, life and death, opposites in harmony, to crave the light, the warmth, the life, to embrace the cold, dark tunnel. At the end of... it's there, I think. I really think so. It's changing, but I don't know how. It feels like it's getting more familiar.
You can't blame living things for needing a sense of security. Who really cares if they come up with some pretty bananas concepts to use as security blankets, because feeling alone is a pretty rotten feeling. The Chinese philosopher Zhuang Zhao tells a story of his friend coming across him playing a drum and singing merrily after his wife has just died, and his friend is no doubt like, what the fuck, and Zhuang Zhao offers some enlightenment. He explains that when his first wife died, he was unbearably sad for a very long time, spending days and nights mourning and wishing for her to return. but he realized that he was looking at things from his own perspective, which was a very narrow slice of the pie. In the grand scheme of things, his wife started as a wide array of billions and billions of particles and elements strewn about the cosmos until, through the unfathomable miracles of the universe, she came to be, and blessed his life with many years of love, friendship, and happiness and warmth. After their time was over, she returned to the universe to be strewn about once more, rearranged into some other beautiful creature of our world, able again to give the gift of happiness to someone new by making the universe a little bit less lonely.
What is one without the other? It's like it's cosmically woven into the fabric of our existence, the very blanket of reality, the interconnected web of our life. Without it, death doesn't exist. Without death, life ceases to mean anything. What does that mean?
I was 5 when I went to my first funeral. A close friend of my mother's, whose death had shocked us all. The morning she died, I saw my mother sat on her bed, weeping. It was the first time I had seen her cry, and I didn't understand. As time went on, I later came to know the depth of their friendship. Her death carved a grave wound in my mother, one I was unsure would ever be healed. It was the intensity of her love which made the pain worse. It left me questioning, if love is the yin, could death be the yang? In death, the quantity of pain is not measured by time or age or circumstance, but by love. Love is what we leave behind and what we carry with us. As with death, one is not present without the other. It is the unspoken cycle of life. The people and things we love will eventually die, but love does not travel with it. Sam Karuri. Alright, fair enough. It's not easy, but most of us can deal with the loss of people. Finite beings with predestined time limits, but at least in all this chaos, there will always be the great mediator of all things, the end-all, be-all, the one unshakable truth of everything. And if attachment theory is correct, we can't properly explore without that sense of attachment. How can we face the dangers of the day-to-day and the chaos of the universe without knowing that there's somebody keeping us safe? Is God the ultimate attachment? And could that be just as malleable, predictable, and unreliable as our attachment to our parents? Nietzsche said God is dead, but he didn't mean that the deity had literally passed away, rest in peace. He meant the idea of one. With science and astronomy becoming mainstream beliefs and religion getting pushed back on the shelf of, yeah, we got some better telescopes and now we're thinking maybe not so much, it seemed that humanity had taken morality and free will into their own hands. They didn't need a god to tell them what was right and what was wrong, what to do and where to do it and how to go about it. They were big boys now. They had learned how to learn, and they were thirsty for mystery and for challenge.
Without a change of state, nothing can happen. Nothing will end because nothing will have ever happened. Life is a beautiful gift for death, but death is an opportunity.
Alright, bear with me on this one. Johannes Scotus Erigena wrote this sick-ass book called De Divisione Naturae about 1200 years ago, and in it he spits some pretty hot takes. The first of which being that anything in the universe can be put into one of 4 classifications. That which is created but does not create, that which creates but is not created, that which is both created and creates, and that which neither creates nor is created. The book goes on to point out that God themselves doesn't actually fit into any of these categories because to do so would require putting themselves in that category, thus limiting themselves and understanding themselves. Instead, Erigena writes, God is collectively moving through these cycles, making up the cycle, and the cycle is them. God enters the realm of space and time where the ideas become subject to multiplicity, change, imperfection, and decay. In this last stage, they are no longer pure ideas, but only the appearances of reality. That is phenomena. In the realm of space and time, the ideas take on the burden of matter, which is the source of suffering, sickness, and sin. The material world, therefore, of our experience is composed of ideas clothed in matter. Man, too, is composed of idea and matter, soul and body. He is the culmination of the process of things from God, and with him, as we shall see, begins the process of return of all things to God.
Yeah, I know what I have to do now. I don't think there's anything left for me to do. I am infinite. This landscape is endless, and its mysteries stretch farther than that. Here, there is no darkness. Here, there is no death, no end to anything. I have no yang. And without it, what is yin?
Erigena ends the book by saying that God's movement through this cycle of creation, starting as an infinity and taking the form of billions of different forms of life and matter and energy, to collapse once more into its final stage of being, are all in essence the same stage, with the only difference being our finite view of reality and of time. Yin meets yang, life meets death, the cycle is complete, we are the cycle is God.
The feeling was more familiar now. It was one with me. The light was everywhere. The warmth filled me like 1,000 beams of love, and joy flowed through my very being with an intensity rivaled only by the creation of everything and the holistic benevolence of reality. And just as I knew it would, the light was swallowed whole, the warmth chased away, and a cold, dark blackness reached around me like spindly tendrils. And you know, that feeling, whatever you want to call it, it stayed with me till the end.
That's gotta mean something, right? In heaven, everything is fine. In heaven, everything is fine. In heaven, everything is fine. You got